Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Franchise Hockey Manager 8 playthrough of the New York Islanders. We are at the start of the 2021-2022 season, have not made significant changes in our first few weeks as the general manager. Obviously, heading into the preseason, everyone kind of had their rosters pretty much set. The one thing we have done is we did bring on Sean Walker from the Kings. We made a trade for him to bolster our defense. The young 26-year-old will be 27 in about a month. Is signed for $2.5 to $3 1/3+ million over the next few years. So we've got him under contract for 3 seasons, and hopefully he will become a significant member of our defense along with Pelech and Pulock. And then we also have Noah Dobson up with the big team again this year, 21-year-old. Very good potential in his last year with us. We'll look to probably sign him to an extension, if at all possible, over the coming months. But we are going to get the new season underway. Our goal is to make the playoffs. That is what our owner is expecting from us, so certainly a good goal from that perspective. And then we also want to just earn as many points as possible to kind of bolster our skill set, because we are very new to this and we are very lowly regarded. So the hope would be to improve our ability, by having a good season. For those who are not aware, with Franchise Hockey Manager 8, depending on your team's performance during the season, that determines how many additional points you have to add to your skills going forward. So a good season would be better for us than a bad season. Looking at our job security as this first season begins, pretty good happiness, starting value of 80. Team chemistry looks okay, and our owner's objective is for us to be in the playoff race. So we will see where we stand as the season gets moving. Looking around the rest of the league at the start of the season, you can see that in free agency, not a ton of talent out there at this point. Not surprising, given that we were at the start of the season. Thinking about players who could be free agents in the next off season, though, definitely a little more talent there. You can see some pretty high-quality players in terms of ability and potential. Now, certainly some of them will be signed by their teams to extensions over the course of the next 8 or 9 months. And there's also probably some players on this list who will choose to retire, but should be a pretty good opportunity next off-season to start molding the team in our own image as general manager. And perhaps during the course of the season, there may be some players on the trading block that end up looking interesting to us. Not shocking for anyone who follows hockey that Evander Kane is on the trading block at the beginning of the season. And we actually have put several of our own players on the trade block. We mentioned in our last episode that we do have a lot of guys on the wrong side of 30, and if we fall out of the playoff race, I would certainly look to potentially trade away some players that we don't think we're going to sign to an extension. Certainly no guarantee that we would be trading away people like Clutterbuck and Palmieri. And you can see also Golashev, Parisi, Komarov, Schneider, who is will be back in the minors shortly once Varlamov is back from his injury. Chara, at his age, is certainly not a long-term answer for us. And then Ross Johnston. So we put in Andy Green. So really a lot of older players, or in the case of Scott Mayfield, someone who, although he is a pretty solid stay-at-home defenseman, may not have a long-term role with our team. So we have a fair amount of players who are out on the trade block also. We'll see if we get any interesting offers from them in the coming months. And then certainly as we get further into the season and the calendar turns to 2022, if we do happen to be out of the playoff race and or can't re-sign the players that we would like to, we'll look to potentially trade them for assets that we prefer and or picks in the upcoming draft, rights to players, anything that we think betters our franchise going forward. Well, we've made it through the first month of the season, and it's been a pretty average month. We're 3-3-1, just 7 points on the outside of the playoff race in the Eastern Conference, but obviously very early going. Sorokin has been fantastic in goal for us. We haven't been doing much offensively, but you can see by his goals against average and his save percentage. He has not been the problem, and Varlamov is now back from his injury, so we should be in a better position at goalie than we were now with our two primary goalies back. Well, we've played another week or so, week and a half, and you can see we're 4-5-1. We're struggling in the Eastern Conference right now, but we just got a real interesting trade offer here. I had mentioned earlier that we put Andy Green on the trade block, the veteran who's been fine for us, played 7 out of 9 games, but the Canucks have just offered us 21-year-old defenseman Jet Wu. You can see he's got 4-star potential. We've talked about wanting to improve our defense for the long term, and this may be a way to do that. Probably going to be more of a all-around defenseman than someone who's just purely focused on defense like Andy Green. But I think this is a trade we probably have to do. So I'm going to go ahead and complete the trade, and we will send Jet Wu down to Bridgeport in the AHL. And we recently, when Sebastian Aho came off of the injured list, had to send Mayfield down to Bridgeport. So we will bring him back up to replace Andy Green on the roster. So a minor move, but one that hopefully will pay dividends for us for the long term, and probably not going to have a huge impact on our success this season. In just one game in, very pleased that we traded away Green for Jet Wu in his debut with the Bridgeport Islanders. The defenseman had a hat trick. So great start to his career with the Islanders franchise, and hopefully he will be putting up similar stat lines with the big club in the not-so-distant future. Well, we've made it through another month, and we're playing a bit better. Record, as you can see, is 9-7-3, 21 points. Still on the outside of the playoff race looking in, but we do have games in hand on every team in the Metropolitan Conference. Sorokin still with an excellent save percentage, and Bevilier has been on fire. You can see there 14 goals and 7 assists in 21 games. Nearly already more goals this season than he had in the COVID-shortened 2020-21 season. So pleased with how things are going, and we will check back in another month, if not earlier, depending on what happens in December. Well, the calendar has turned to 2022, and we are still very mediocre, just like the real Islanders, quite honestly, in this 2021 to 2022 NHL season. You can see that we're still at the bottom of the Metropolitan Conference. Positively, only 10 points separate first to last. But if we're going to get into the playoffs, we're going to have to start playing better than .500 hockey. Well, we've made it through another month. We're into February, and the season remains very mediocre. You can see we're still lingering right around .500, a lot of overtime losses. just not a great season so far. We're going to be closing in on the trade deadline relatively soon, so we'll have to decide whether we want to move on from anyone. Our job security is mediocre. We kind of figured we had one season where we wouldn't have to worry about those kind of things, given that our goal was only to be in the playoff race, which we still are. You can see fan happiness has deteriorated a little bit over the course of the season, although team chemistry is ecstatic. But definitely has not been as good a season as we would have hoped to get things started. Malkin, in one breath, says the season's a great success so far and the team's in outstanding shape. But then he's also concerned about my work. So should be able to keep my job, and is the plan has always been get through this season and then really start rebuilding and retooling the team in my vision this offseason. Hopefully we will still be around to do that, but going to have to start playing better, and we'll report back on how the month of February goes and what, if anything, we end up doing in the trade market. Well, we've made it through the month of February, another month of close to 500 hockey from a close to 500 hockey team. Obviously was not too much action because when the game was created last fall, there was the thought that the NHL players would be in the Olympics, but that did not happen. So there was a big break in the middle of the schedule for players to be off at the Olympics in the simulation here on FHM8. Did make a few trades, given that our playoff chances are getting more remote by the day. Nothing revolutionary, all stuff that is totally on the margin, but did kind of, do a little bit to hopefully position the team better for the future. So if I can go to the transaction screen, if I can remember where to find that, I can, there we go, talk through the couple of trades that we did do as we got closer to the trade deadline. You can see that we traded excess defenseman Scott Mayfield to the Coyotes for a 5th-round pick in the upcoming draft and a couple 7th-round picks. Veteran Zach Parisi, who is on the final year of his contract, and got a 5th-rounder from Dallas for that. And then Columbus did hit us up with an offer for Ross Johnston, who was in the final year of his contract. And we were able to get a young defenseman, Andrew Peak, who is still signed for this season and next season. Mentioned that we've wanted to be focusing on trying to improve our defense, and hopefully that will be a small step in the right direction. So nothing too exciting as we headed towards the trade deadline, but hopefully with those late round picks that we got, they may help us in the coming draft and then also in the future, hopefully in terms of being able to, be a little bit of extra ammo for any trades that we want to make down the line. In retrospect, probably good that we were sellers and not really trying to push real hard, given the mediocre season that we've had at the trade deadline, because left winger Anthony Bevilier is out for the rest of the year. You may remember that a few months ago he was among the league leaders early in the season with 14 goals through the first couple of months. Definitely slowed down, finished the year with 20 goals and 17 assists in 55 games. Age 24, still an important part of what we hope to achieve with this team going forward, but he is done for the year, so we'll be bringing up some more youth from Bridgeport to give them some experience with a big team as we try to kind of make a plan as to what our roster should look like next season. Well, March was an incredibly difficult month for the Islanders. After that injury to Bevilier, everything really just went down the tubes. You can see 3-12-1 during the month. And then, although the owner thinks the season has proceeded very promisingly, He's also very unhappy with our work. So it would be pretty bad to get fired one season into a career, but you can see that our job security is definitely teetering right now. And we just finished up a 10-game losing streak not too long ago, which certainly was not positive for us. So things are not going well. We're clearly not going to make the playoffs. I think at this point the goal is to hopefully play better in the month of April before our season is finished. Got a busy month ahead of us. Still going to be playing all the way through the end of the month, and then nothing into May. So, let's hope that we can win more games than we lose, and hopefully at least have a winning percentage above 400, which will help a little bit with our final rating for the season, and hopefully earning at least a point or two to improve our coaching and general management abilities with. But season has obviously gotten away from us over the past month, but we will do our best to finish up strong. Well, the 2021 to 2022 season is mercifully over for the Islanders. Played a little better in the month of April than we did in March, but still, as you can see, well out of the playoff hunt. Tied for the second worst record in the Eastern Conference, or tied for the worst record in the Eastern Conference, and tied for the second worst record in all of hockey, behind only the Coyotes. So the positive news is that we will have a lot of balls in the hopper when the draft lottery runs around in a few months. Hopefully we will still be in our job at that point, despite this disappointing first season. Thanks so much for watching. We will be back in our next episode to recap the highlights of the 2022 season, talk about some of our plans for who we'd like to re-sign, and our plans for free agency. If you're enjoying the series, would love it if you subscribe, and if you have any comments, please put them down below. Have a great day.